Compelling stories are not hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Join your host, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they interview ordinary people about their extraordinary experiences. This is Baggage.
Hi, and welcome to Baggage. We have Ryan Frank and Ryan Connor joining us as hosts. I have the pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Scott Martin of the West Metro Fire Department. He's here to share some of his stories and experience with us. Scott, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. My name is Scott Martin. I've been a firefighter for the last 26 years, firefighter and paramedic in the Denver metro area and in the foothills just outside of Denver. And super honored to be here.
Tell us a little bit kind of about the early start of your career. I know when we talked before, you said you started in Evergreen. Kind of walk us through, like, how did you get to being an officer in the department you are right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I started off in kind of late 2000 as a volunteer firefighter in the small town that I lived in, Evergreen. I was living with a bunch of different guys there. We kind of had a bachelor pad, and one night after a bunch of beers, we decided, wouldn't it be cool if we were firefighters? And chicks dig firefighters, and it's exciting, and let's do it. So we all went and signed up to be volunteer firefighters. And about a week later, after everybody had kind of sobered up and come to their senses, I was the only one that stayed with it. So, I started there. Evergreen was a small, it's a small but really busy volunteer department. One of the busiest volunteer departments in the state of Colorado. And that's really where I got my taste for kind of being a first responder and helping people, and the adrenaline that came with it, and the highs and the lows and the excitement of it. I was with Evergreen for 15 years. About 7 years in, somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you should try to do this for a living. You should, be a paid firefighter." And at the time, I was a small business owner, owned my own coffee shop. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Leave all of this behind and go get paid a regular salary? Are you kidding me?" But I fell for it and ended up trying out for a variety of different departments at the time. Well, still currently, you got to apply to be a firefighter, and there's a long testing process. And it took me about 4 years of testing and applying with various departments on the Front Range and even out of state. And I finally got hired on with West Metro Fire.
Sad kind of tie-in with one of our other episodes here. Evergreen just recently, I think about a year ago, had a shooting at the high school there. And when we had Canine Companions on, they had brought their dogs up there. And I think we even posted some pictures of those gals and their dogs at Evergreen High School. And that was a big kind of blow to the local community when that happened here.
It was. And oddly enough, I have since retired from Evergreen. You have to live in the town of Evergreen to be a volunteer there. Well, at the time I did. So I had retired, but the day of the Evergreen High School shooting, I was at a station that was on the west side of our district. And so they sent us up to the shooting. And so I got to be there for that event and got to partake in that. And it was odd because when I was a firefighter with Evergreen, I was actually a training captain up there. And we put together a school shooter scenario in that high school. And we practiced a mass casualty incident in that high school. And when I was back up there on that day, to realize that training that we had done was, valuable, but kind of eerie too. Like, oh my God, we had planned for this and here it is.
Can I ask you something? You volunteered at a young age. I don't know how old people typically do that, but what was it going on in your mind when you got that first call?
Oh,
it just seems so daunting. I can't imagine.
It was thrilling. At the time, like I said, I was a small business owner. I ran a coffee shop in downtown Evergreen. You have to go through months and months of training, and you have to pass tests and get certifications before they'll let you run a single call. And back in the olden days, volunteer departments were storied, and you show up and they give you bunker gear and they say, okay, when you hear the siren go off in the middle of the night, you go. Those days are gone. You have to be certified. You have to be well trained. So we had gone through months of training in my academy class and gotten all these state level certifications. And when they finally said, okay, you can run calls now, my academy class, we were just hyped, just so excited. Most people have day jobs, obviously. As volunteer firefighters, you don't get paid anything. So you have to have a day job. My day job just happened to be in downtown Evergreen. And so day one at like 10 a.m., when the alarm went off, I threw my towel on the counter, tossed the keys to my assistant and said, I'll be back. And I ran and jumped in my truck and went off to the emergency. And oddly, even though it was 26 years ago, I can still remember that very first call. Some teenager had come around a corner too fast and rolled his vehicle off the highway into a small creek. The guy crawled out and he was fine, but his car was leaking gas and oil into this small creek. And so our response was to mop up the hazardous materials that were going down the creek into downtown.
That's funny.
What about your first fire?
My first fire, I don't know if I can remember the exact one. Evergreen has a lot of structure fires, more so than my very busy paid department. As odd as that sounds. West Metro Fire serves a population of 350,000 people, maybe more, but in that range. Evergreen only has 25,000 people, and they have more fires per capita than at my big city department.
Is it just particularly dry, or is it just like a lot of pyromaniacs out there?
I was thinking the prosecutor and me saying arson.
This is still a pretty rural place. You got a lot of people with like wood burning stoves and shit too. Like,
it's such a unique, diverse town. I mean, there's $10 million homes that I've been in fighting structure fires, and there are single bedroom shacks with barely running water and plumbing that we've fought structure fires in. The wildland component certainly is huge up there. The wildland fire threat in Evergreen is immense, and that was a big part of our training up there. But luckily, in the 15 years that I was with Evergreen, we never had a big wildland fire loss. We were very, very lucky, I'd say, but we were very aggressive in our fire attack up there. So we had some big fires, but none of them claimed any structures while I was there. It was really, they've been fortunate, and they've been, I mean, you could say dodging a bullet the whole time, because anybody who's been up to Evergreen knows there's houses intermixed amongst the pine trees everywhere, and they've all experienced the pine bark beetle, and you know, they're all at the same level that the rest of the state is right now. So
insurance companies really push for everyone to do all this like mitigation stuff and like cut the trees back, and nobody does it. And it kind of takes away from like living in the mountains if you don't have the trees all around. And what was it supposed to be, like 50 feet from any structures?
30 feet. And then there's graduated zones. They call them home ignition zones. As you get further from your structure, they want different treatment on the vegetation and different types of siding on your house, roofing on your house, that kind of stuff. But it's hard. It's really hard. You're right. People move into the mountains because they want to be in the mountains. And I'm a wildland fire specialist. So I go out on wildland fire deployments. I help work with homeowners in our district and other districts and kind of prepping their homes to be more fire safe. It's tough. I mean, there's big fires, bigger all the time. And sometimes you can't even make them safe.
In talking to firefighters that want to be on the show or that have been on the show, I am shocked by the percentage, how much work is actually not fire related. It's EMS related. What would you say the breakdown is?
Oh, man. I joke. We're considering renaming instead of fire department, the poop department, because I see way more poop on a daily basis or a weekly basis than I do fire. And I mean, like, a lot more.
That's not in the brochure, I'll tell you that.
It is not in the brochure, but probably the breakdown is 75 to 75% of what we do is medical, honestly.
Wow.
And I'm a paramedic as well. So, I mean, that's great because it's still part of my specialty is paramedicine. But truly 911 has become almost a catch-all for the problem solving phone number, right? And we filter somewhat before it gets to us, the kind of the call types or what people are calling 911 for, but you'd be amazed the stuff that they send us on. And it's all part of the job. I love it. There's parts I love more than others, but the medical component is huge. It's keeping fire departments afloat, if you ask me. They're making houses safer, and there's not as many fires as they used to be. Ask any old salty fire vet, and they'll say, oh, well, we used to run 2 fires a day. That's bullshit. They probably didn't, unless they were in Boston or Detroit or fire department in New York. But there are fewer fires today because houses are just built differently.
Are you telling me the TV shows are not accurate?
No, I'm not saying that. Chicago Fire is 100% accurate. I tell my mom that all the time when she asks me. Is that what you do, really?
Sorry to put you on the spot with this one, but I think every first responder has that first call where they were like, holy shit, what have I gotten into? Did you ever have that experience? Was there one that stands out to you that was like, oh, wow, this got real quick?
Man, after I became, no, before I was a paramedic, I was an EMT. On almost all fire departments, you have to be an EMT basic and graduate up from there, right? They want at least a basic level of medical training because so much of what we do. But as an EMT basic, I remember running a call. It's probably one of the most difficult calls I've ever run on. But it was New Year's Day and maybe 2006. And I prided myself on always running the last call of the year and the first call of the year. So on my department, if you're working on that night, you want to run a call at 11:59. So say you grab the last call of the year. And then whenever that first call of the year comes in, you want your name stamped on that. At least that was one of my own personal goals. The first call of the year came in as an unconscious 1-year-old, unconscious and not breathing. No. And I was responding from my house. This is still while I was a volunteer. And I was responding from my house. And the address of the call was maybe 2 miles from my house. So I knew I was going to be the first person there. Evergreen's a rural community, obviously. And so the way that they're structured, you can respond from your home. You have equipment with you. You have your fire gear with you. I hop in my truck. I speed down the road. I make it to this house and I run in with my medical kit. And the person who meets me at the door says, she's upstairs. She's upstairs. So I ran upstairs to this house it's a pretty nice house in Evergreen. And ran upstairs, and there in the middle of the bed was this little baby girl. And she was blue, stiff, and cold. Wow. So she was beyond help for quite some time. But I ran over and I checked for a pulse, and I felt none. I tried to manipulate the airway or open up her airway so that maybe I could do some rescue breathing for her. And her jaw was locked from rigor mortis and obvious signs of death at this point. So I had to back off because it's sort of an unattended death at that point, and there's that breakover between what's a medical scene and what's a crime scene. And we have to kind of filter through that sometimes. So I had to back off and walk out of the room and went back downstairs. At that point, more responders were showing up on scene. The ambulance was showing up on scene. Fire trucks were showing up on scene. And I looked at the paramedics as they're coming in and I said, she's gone. This is a dead body. Mom and baby were in town visiting, a brother-in-law or sister-in-law or something. Mom had drinks and stuff. It was New Year's Eve, right? So after everybody went to bed, mom went to bed with the baby, put the baby next to her on the bed. Yeah. And at some point in the middle of the night, either rolled over or the baby rolled over and fell off the bed and landed head down in a trash can next to the bed. And the trash can had a plastic liner and it suffocated the baby. Mom woke up in the morning alone in bed and thought someone had come in, like grandma or grandpa had come in and taken the baby downstairs to play or whatever. So she got up and walked downstairs, put her robe on or whatever. I don't know what she did, but walked downstairs and said, where is baby Megan? And they said, well, I don't know. We thought she was sleeping. Oh, no, she wasn't with me. So they thought the grandpa had come and gotten her. So they found grandpa. He was in the basement. No, I don't have Megan. So then they started searching the house for Megan and they found her, unfortunately. But at that point, way past help. And so being the first person there, first person on scene, by myself for an extended period, it was probably only 5 or 6 minutes that I was by myself. But at that moment, I was like, what can I do? I wish I could do more. And to hear the screams and the wails of the mother downstairs, I remember asking if I could be the one to go in and say, hey, Mom, she's dead. And as they teach us as first responders, they teach us in our medical training that in those moments, and Eric, you may know this, you have to use frank, straightforward language, not mince it, not she's gone, she's not with us anymore, the baby has passed, anything like that, because that can lead to confusion. That can lead to, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And so I remember that message echoing, and I had to walk into the kitchen and say, I'm sorry, but she's dead.
Does that just stay with you for is that something that keeps you up for a while? Until you're do you become desensitized? Eric has talked about how after a while you become desensitized to all these things that are extreme situations to everyone else. Does that happen or?
It does, because I love what I do and I want to continue doing what I do. I think my brain has come up with a coping mechanism that, okay, this happens. You're a witness to it. You're a participant in it. You are hopefully helping somebody on this amazingly tragic day or moment in their life. And if you want to keep doing this, if you want to keep being part of that process, you have to separate it. This is work. This is work. If my own child were to tragically die, I'm going to be a wreck. And who knows, maybe all of the memories come flooding back from all of the dead children that I've experienced and been part of in my career. Maybe it all comes flooding back. But to this point, I've been able to kind of separate it and say, I'm going to be sad for this person. I'm going to grieve in this moment with this person. I had another call where I went on a SIDS call, where a mom put her baby down for a nap and the baby never woke up. And she calls 911. We show up. I was the lead paramedic on this call. We go into the room. We bring the baby out into the well-lit living room. So we have room to work and lots of light and stuff. We did our resuscitation efforts, and there was no bringing this baby back. It had died. I remember the mom sitting on the floor next to me after we had done all of our advanced life support treatment and come to the conclusion that this baby was not savable. She asked if I would just sit there on the floor with her. And I did. I sat on the floor with Mom and this poor dead baby, and she cried and I held her hand, and the rest of the crew was cleaning up and taking stuff out, and the fire truck left, and the law enforcement officers came in, and my officer at the time was like, let's just leave Scott with her for a minute. And I probably sat with her for a half an hour, just holding her hand and talking to her and referring to the child by name. And I didn't know what else to do okay, now I've got to go. And so I was fortunate to get to spend some time then, but processing that. And my daughter was a newborn at that time.
That's rough. That's hard when you're seeing it in parallel like that.
And I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know, am I going to be up at night, rolling over thinking about this, or am I going to have to go see a therapist? And the separation to work and home life, I was able to kind of shut one off when I went home. I gave my daughter lots of extra hugs when I got home. And our department is very sensitive about the mental health of the responders. And in those critical calls, they will bring in a critical incident stress debrief specialist, and they can sit down and talk with the crews. In this particular instance, my chief showed up at the station and said, does anybody need to go home? Does anybody want to take the next 12 hours off and go be with your loved ones or your kids? Or
that has to be one of the most progressive policies I think I've ever heard of a fire department. That's impressive. It's
amazing. And we have other big incidents. Either a responder is hurt or you've been witness to a death, where they'll bring in these specialists that right after the call, they'll take the crew out of service, send you back to your station, And then they'll bring these specialists in to talk to you and kind of, feeling share. And what was your perspective? What did you do? What did you see? How are you feeling? Yeah. So it's known. The days of, oh man, just tough it out, kid. This is the job. Those have passed, because
That's good to hear.
yeah, they've witnessed how those fail, and they fail dramatically.
One thing that's hard, and I hope you can expand on this, when there's kids in cardiac arrest, paramedics are trained that you work them hard, and you work them basically until there's no hope left. And that means either there is rigor mortis or you get them to the hospital and the doctor calls them there. And I think that puts an undue stress on the first responders, on these kids that, like, on that first one. I'm so glad that you just called it, because that's something that would have been so much more traumatic on everybody. Yeah. But there's ones where they've been down for a while. I've had these cases, as a doctor and as a medic, where you don't want to do this. Like, it's doing them a disservice and a dishonor to put them through it and to put the families through it, when it'd be better to just be like, I'm sorry, there's nothing that we can do. We need to just stop. But that is something is that still ingrained in the paramedic training of you work the kids hard?
We're more aggressive with children, especially with, I'd say, traumatic deaths or a drowning or something like that.
Certainly witnessed.
Yeah, we have a 30-minute window in our protocol saying that we will work any cardiac arrest patient that is deemed to be a candidate for resuscitation. We'll work them for 30 minutes. And if there's no change after 30 minutes, if their cardiac monitor is not showing any change, if their vital signs haven't improved or decreased, we'll call it. We'll call a doctor, our medical director, and say, hey, doc, we're on scene. This is what we got. We've been working for 30 minutes. These are the drugs we've pushed. This is the cardiac rhythm we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And after 30 minutes, they're deemed non-survival. If it's a child, we still have that 30-minute window, but there may be times that I'm not working that child on scene. I'm tossing that kid in the back of the ambulance, and we're just going to the hospital.
Yeah, diesel fuel is the best medicine.
Man, it can be. And we're not chock full of dead babies in my profession, but those calls definitely stand out. But we had a call where...
I want to stop you for 1 second. I know I asked for this because I asked those questions and I knew it was going to be something brutal, but damn it, man. I told everyone that you were funny and that you have great jokes and stuff. And here we're just diving into the depths here. Tell us a funny poop story or something.
It always gets into subjects like these. And then we get to the end and they're like, there was no comic relief from you today. And it's like, yeah.
I won't go into another dead baby story at this point. We'll switch from that to some other stuff. But
give us a funny poo story. Those are always good ones.
So we had a guy call who had fallen down the stairs, and guy lived by himself. He lived in a basement apartment. Somehow had his cell phone with him, but he called and said, I've fallen and I can't get up. The classic, right? So we get to the door. We're knocking on the door. He's like, I can't get up to unlock the door. And we said, well, if you don't get up, we're going to have to break the door down. Break the door down. So we break the door down to get in access to him. And the door leads to a set of stairs that runs all the way to the basement. And he had made it halfway up the stairs. He fell to the bottom, laid at the bottom for 12 hours, and then decided he needed to try to do something. So he started crawling back up the stairs. Well, he just defecated all the way up the stairs.
Oh.
So where we met him, middle of the stairs, he's like, I just can't move any further. This is as far as I can go. You're going to have to carry me. And which was the worst option because of course he's naked. Nobody falls or gets sick with clothes on. It's all the naked ones, and rarely pleasantly naked. I'll just say that the percentage of pleasantly naked is so minuscule.
Pleasantly naked.
Yeah. I don't know how else you do phrase it, but that's not it.
Oh man! Wow, that person was no clothes on, and that wasn't that bad. No, it's almost never like that. But this guy, we literally had to stand in feces to wrap straps underneath him to be able to carry him up the stairs. And as we were carrying him up the stairs, he continued to defecate because now we've released this pressure. So it's just cascading down the stairs. Oh my God. Yeah.
There's not enough PPI in the world to just keep that off of you.
We got him up. We put a bunch of blankets down on our bed. We call a pram is what we call the bed the stretcher that comes out of the ambulance. Mm-hmm. We put about 5 blankets on that pram, put him on it, and then just him layer after layer until he was a giant poop burrito. The smell doesn't get in the ambulance. It doesn't get on the equipment, etc. So that was a recent poop story.
It's always diarrhea, right?
Oh man,
it's never a nicely formed kind of thing.
It's
right?
not like, hey, baby Ruth.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of other funny stories. We had a story. It wasn't particularly a funny story, but it was a really interesting rescue that I got to be part of. We got called for a bull elk that fell in a well.
I was just about to ask if you had some wildlife stories.
Yes, lots of wildlife stories. This one, though, takes the cake in my mind because I'm an elk hunter. I'm a big elk hunter. And this was in the fall of the year. And we got a call from the Division of Wildlife. The Division of Wildlife said, hey, we have this elk who fell in this. It was an old underground cistern. Up in the mountains, they have to have their own storage tanks, basically a storage tank. But they're buried in the ground, and they were just covered with like a wood roof. And this big bull elk, this beautiful 6x6 bull elk, had walked out onto this wooden platform to sit and bugle. Like, it's mating season, and this is my pulpit. So he gets up on there and he's bugling, and all of a sudden, his 800 pounds falls straight through the wooden roof of this cistern. And he falls into, I don't know, it's maybe 10 feet deep of water underneath this wooden roof. So he's making all kinds of noise. A neighbor luckily hears this commotion, comes and sees him, and there he is doing the doggy paddle in this 20-foot deep swimming pool. He's 10 feet down, and there's probably another 10 feet deep of water in this thing. So I don't know, 20,000 gallon cistern, 40,000 gallon cistern. So the Division of Wildlife shows up and we don't know what to do. So they called the fire department. So we showed up. The first thing we did is drain the cistern. There's a valve at the bottom. We drained the cistern. So the elk went from, we could see his head sticking above the water to all the way down where he's now standing on an empty tank, but he's now 20 feet down. So we kept him from drowning. That was one achievement. But now, how are we going to get this 800-pound bull elk out of this well? We came up with all these different theories. We tried to build a ramp out of plywood and ran the plywood down to him and tried to convince him to climb up, and that wasn't working. We put
dangling treats or anything like that?
Here, boy, come here, come on. We tried putting a big strap on his rear end to kind of pull him along, like they do with cattle into a chute. And
I don't want to be callous, but at the Division of Wildlife, was there ever the option of just we're just going to put this thing down, or were you guys just doing this for fun at this point?
The Division of Wildlife has this unique position where they will readily dispatch a wounded animal. And we've seen it 100 times. But this one was still alive, and he was basically uninjured. So they have this switch. They're like, we got to save him at all costs.
The cop in Boulder that shot the elk got in all sorts of trouble. That was probably about 10 years ago.
Well, that was more of I think they accused him of kind of poaching is really what happened there. But this case, the division's like, look, we're all in. We want to save this thing. And we're the fire departments. We're like, all right, let's do this.
Cat in a tree, elk in a cistern. Why not?
So what we ended up doing is the Division of Wildlife tranquilized him, shot him with a dart, because we couldn't get down in there either because he's a large wild animal. And we can't get down in there with him. So they tranquilized him. And then I climbed down a ladder into the cistern after he got real sleepy. And I ran tow straps underneath his chest and his back end.
While he's just sleeping, he's not tranquilized?
His head was up. His eyes were open, but just so stoned. He wasn't doing anything.
Were you terrified?
I was cautious. But I don't know. That was the 30-year-old firefighter going, I can do this. I'm in. Put me in.
That's insane.
So once we got the straps under him, we had the Road and Bridge Department come out with a backhoe, and they extended the backhoe arm out over the cistern, and I was able to hook the straps to the backhoe arm.
Wow.
And they lifted him up and out and onto the ground. And then we drug him into the back of a horse trailer the Division of Wildlife had brought along. I mean, this whole thing, it was like 6 hours long. So we had all kinds of time to call in this resource and let's try this and make sure you got this ready. So once we got him out of the cistern and onto the ground, we drug this wet, muddy, super stoned elk into a horse trailer. And then they took him up to the Division of Wildlife property. We drug him back out and released him to the wild.
What a great story. That's so awesome.
It's amazing.
I'm envisioning like 2 minutes later, there's a hunter in the wood line. Boom! He's got this drugged out elk that's like easy pickings.
Well, I could finish the story with the unhappy ending, which is not far from that, Ryan.
Oh, no.
But
that elk ran for office and lost.
No, he suffered from something called compartment syndrome. He had been down long enough, and he died like 2 days later. The Division of Wildlife came and reported it to us like, hey, thanks you guys for all that help, but he ended up dying 2 days later. And we're like, what? All of that work?
That's crazy. Is it like a waterborne illness or something?
No, it's when you get like trauma and your internal tissues can swell and it kind of like can cut off blood flow.
Yeah, man.
So he probably hit something on the way down.
He was drugged and laying down so long that, when your arm falls asleep, kind of, it's like an acidosis takes over your entire body, and when that's released, it can cause a cardiac abnormality and cause you to die. So,
that sucks.
Has anyone ever seen the videos of how the Department of Wildlife takes samples of elk population? They have a helicopter and a giant net gun, and they'll fly over the herds of elk and just shoot this net gun at them and then come out and like tag the animals and stuff like that. It is really wild.
That's amazing. That'd be a fun job.
Your story, Scott, reminded me of, I think it was just this year. I had a deer that had looked like had got injured, young deer in my backyard. So I call animal control, but it's after hours. So I get routed to the police department and they come out and I'm like, yeah, I got this wounded deer that's like dying in my backyard. I'm like, okay, yeah. And they pull out their service weapon. They're like, I was like, can you put it out of its misery? And they're like, yeah, we can. Yeah, we're not going to let it suffer. And then it jumps up and runs like 100 yards and collapses. And they put the gun away and they're like, it's not bad enough. I can't kill it now.
He's fine.
And it's your problem. It's on your property. We're not going to take it away. And that is not cheap. I was like, oh man, are you kidding me? So it died like a day later or whatever. I had to get rid of it. But similar to the wildlife is like, if it's hurt, we're going to be humane and put it out of its misery.
Right.
But if there's hope, then we'll move heaven and earth to try to save it.
Yeah.
This is quite a diversion, but this is a fun related story. Have you guys heard our friend Glenn's story about his coworker who was going to be proposing to his girlfriend, and on the way to this thing where they're already an hour late where their families are going to be, they see a wounded deer on the side of the road, and he just, he keeps going. She's like, what do you do? Because it was like, wiggling and stuff. And I guess maybe their windows were down, something. They could hear it moaning. And she goes, you got to put that thing out of its misery. And he's like, me? It's a country road. He's like, you got to put it out of its misery. And he's like, with what? And she's like, you need to be a man and put it out of its misery. And they go back and he's just looking at it. And he's like, what do you want me to do? And she's like, I don't know, with your hands or something.
Oh, no.
And he's like, I'm trying to propose to you right now. And anyway, it goes through this thing. And eventually, like, she's trying to get him to kick it. And he's like, I'm not going to kick the deer. Eventually, someone else comes along. And anyway, they got divorced after like 6 months.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
I want to hear more medical stories, but I want to touch on something that's kind of poignant right now in the state. And if anyone that doesn't know, like half of Colorado's on fire. We have terrible, terrible smoke right now. And I was wondering if you could tell us about some of your experiences, or if you've had any with some of the bigger wildfires.
Absolutely. I've been super fortunate that I've been a wildland firefighter my entire career. But when I got on with my paid department, you have to audition for their specialty team. And so I'm a member of the wildland team for my department. And so in being a member of that team, I get to deploy to different states to fight fire. I also fight fire in Colorado, obviously, but big fires will call local fire departments and say, hey, look, we obviously, the federal government doesn't have enough fire trucks and firefighters. We need help. So they'll hire other firefighters and fire trucks from different departments all over the country. It's a standard practice. Montana's on fire. They'll get firefighters from Oklahoma and Utah and Washington and California and Colorado and so forth. So I've been very fortunate to get to go all over the country fighting wildland fire. The news is dire right now, Eric. You're right. They have a figure out right now that we have over 100,000 acres burning in Colorado at this time.
This is a lot less than the last couple of years. I think the big thing is that those 3 firefighters got killed in the line of duty.
Yes, and it's a dramatic start because it just happened. We had no fires, and then last week a big lightning bust came through the state, and now we have a lot of fires. And so it's sort of a dramatic entrance to the fire season. In the grand scheme, 100,000 acres, it isn't a big fire season for Colorado yet, but we're right at the sort of the beginning of the summer. So I anticipate it's coming. And I've been able to go out to California and fight fires. I fought the fire in the Paradise.
Paradise was Northern California, Palisades. You were part of I was there a few days ago, by the way, but I'll get to that after. Yeah. This is where I live in LA. Yeah.
I've only been to LA once or twice prior to this, but that was a significant event for the country. And I got to be part of that whole thing. And that was just mind blowing. The scope of that fire. Again, the size of the fire itself was like 6,000 acres, which is for California, that's not a big fire, but it burned down so many homes and had such a dramatic impact. And it was, you call it the urban interface if your house is in the trees or your house is up in a canyon or something like this. That fire burned right up to the Pacific Ocean. It jumped, was it the 101 or the 1 right there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It came down the hill from the Manzanita, or the Chaparral, burned a bunch of houses, jumped the highway, and burned the houses that were on the beach. It was astounding to see that the power that fire had could reach across basically a 4 or 5 lane highway at that point and catch houses on fire that were literally on the beach.
Can I ask a stupid question? This sounds somewhat insensitive. How does a firefighter die in a forest fire? Because it just seems like, is it from the smoke or is it actually from the fire itself? It's like, I feel like that you'd be like, if you could get on some pavement, you'd be okay. Or if you could get like on some rocks or between trees, it would be okay. Or here with like the grass fires, like how hot is the grass fire? Like what happens that this disaster occurs?
Typically what happens is it's the radiant heat energy that will kill a firefighter in a wildland fire. You can die from smoke inhalation in a house fire very easily. And most fire fatalities in a house fire are because of smoke inhalation. The smoke will get to you first. The smoke in your house is full of all kinds of hazardous chemicals from your burning couch and your burning television and your burning carpet, which those will kill you. And you'll be dead before the fire gets you. So if that's any comfort, you'll die. Well, you'll die screaming, but it won't be because you're burning alive. Typically, in wildland fire, unfortunately, it's not smoke inhalation. It's direct exposure to flame or heat contact.
Because these guys that died, they put out their fire shelters, I heard.
And those fire shelters, we all carry them on wildland fires. They can deflect a lot of heat, but they're basically a tinfoil sleeping bag. Really, they weigh about 8 pounds. You keep them in a accessible pouch on your backpack, and you pull them out in your very last resort. Like, okay, well, it's this or just praying. So I'm going to try this and pray. And you unfurl this tinfoil sleeping bag. You climb into it. You try to find a piece of bare ground to lay on, whether a roadway or dirt road, or you take your tools and you clear a patch of grass down to just bare mineral, and then you lay face down in this tinfoil bag and you just pray and hope you make it through. And they do all kinds of testing on these shelters to see what types of thermal heat transfers through them, and they'll deflect a lot of heat. But a wildland fire with any kind of steam behind it can get upwards of 2,000 degrees. So a micro thin layer of tinfoil is really not going to help you out too much. And probably what happened with the people who just died and got burned up in the fire outside of Fruta, they got cut off. They couldn't escape. Their last resort was to lay down and deploy their shelters, and just wasn't enough. It's typically what happens. There's all kinds of protocols that we try to adhere to. There's an acronym we call LACES. It's a 4-letter acronym that was developed after so many wildland firefighters had perished. The experts got together and said, hey, look, we need to make sure we're accomplishing these 4 things. L for in LACES, lookouts. Make sure you got somebody watching your back saying, hey, Scott, look out. It just jumped the road. It's coming right at you. Communication is the C in LACES. You have radio contact with somebody who can say, hey, the fire just got over the top of the ridge and is running down the canyon where you are. Evacuate. Get out. The E, escape route. If the fire does get in where you are, you got some way to get out. A road, a trail. You're not just backed up against a cliff and there's no way out. And then the S in LACES is safety zones. If you do get overrun, is there a place which you can bug out to, a parking lot, a big open field with short grass, a lake? Is there some place where you can get to and be safe while the fire burns past you? This fire moves so fast. These firefighters, they were Helitack members. So they showed up to that particular fire in a helicopter. The helicopter dropped them off. Their assignment was to quickly try to manage this small fire to keep it from getting big. It was probably a spot fire from there was a bigger fire going on at the time. They dropped this crew off in helicopters and said, do your best. And then the fire changed direction or changed intensity and cut them off, and they had no place to go.
Let me ask one other stupid question, just because I don't know a lot about this. If you drop 4 or 5 firefighters out in the middle of a field with a fire going, what the hell are they doing out there?
Depending on the size and fire conditions, there's a variety of tactics, right? There's something called a direct attack, where I'm going to go and I'm going to knock that fire out.
But these guys don't have water, right? They don't have hoses or pumps or things like that. They're just an axe and some shovels, right?
Yeah, typically that's it. Or they may have what we call drip torches, tools that you use to start a fire. They may have that. You may sometimes start a small fire to burn out fuel between, let's say, that fire that started by lightning, between that and this rock face, or between that and the side of the road, so it doesn't jump over the road. There's a variety of tools that they can use, but these guys don't have water. And a lot of wildland fire is fought without water, honestly. You just can't get hoses to the top of the mountain or back in the forest. And if you can, there's no water supply. There's not fire hydrants. A fire truck carries 300 gallons for a small wildland fire truck. The city fire trucks carry 500 gallons. That's nothing.
That's it. I've looked at the trucks and wondered how much water is in there. And you assume, that's only enough for the crew to take a shower.
Yeah. 500 gallons of water in your house.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. I can put out a fire in your house with 500 gallons of water. Maybe not if the whole house is on fire, but if your living room's on fire and you give me 500 gallons, I got a pretty decent shot. If the field is on fire or that stand of trees is on fire, 500 gallons is peeing on the proverbial apartment fire.
I saw a documentary one time, or a TV show, where it was a group of firefighters were fighting this forest fire, and it started coming towards them. And there was one veteran, and this was decades ago, one veteran and a bunch of greener firefighters. And the veteran saw it coming, stopped, found a clearing, caught the clearing on fire, and got in the center of it. And the younger ones, the more inexperienced ones, they tried to outrun it, and they didn't make it. The only person that survived was the guy that did a little burnout area. And what always struck me from that is I can't visualize that. Like, a forest fire moves faster than you can run. Like, what does that even look like?
The fires that burned down all the neighborhoods to the north of me, the winds were going at close to 100 miles per hour that day, and the fire was clocked at upwards of 80 plus miles an hour moving through the fields.
See, I can't visualize that. That's crazy.
Ryan, the one you're talking about, that's the Man Gulch fire.
Okay.
Happened back in the 40s, late 40s.
Yeah.
That was a crew of smoke jumpers. Those guys jump out of a plane and parachute into a small fire, and there's 10 of them that go to work to try to put the fire out before it gets big. And you're right. The fire was more than they could handle. It jumped the other side of the valley. It cut off their escape route. Their escape route was going down to the river and catching a boat and getting out of there. They got cut off, and so they had to run up out of the valley to escape this fire that was coming behind them. It's a really famous story. And the one guy that lit the escape fire, his name was Wag Dodge, some old crusty, salty World War II vet who came home from the war and started fighting wildfire. He pulled out his Zippo lighter and started the grass on fire. And he did the timing of it, and the story itself is, it's firefighting lore. Some people will say that's not how it happened. There's no way, no one could survive that. They actually tried to prosecute him in years after the event, saying that because he was the crew boss, he didn't lead his men, and it was his fault that they died. Mm-hmm. And his defense was, well, they should have listened to me. They got outrun by this fire. Mm. They were running up the side of a cliff, basically. The two others survived, and they got badly burned, but they made it over the top of the cliff and onto the backside, and the fire, it kind of cliffed out at the top, so it didn't go over the edge and down. But everybody else died. That's
a story that all firefighters get told, huh?
I carry a little tiny lighter in the shirt of my wildland uniform for that very reason, and I've not used it for anything but burning the ends of my laces on my boots. But it's there just in case.
Can I ask you something about when these fires are near homes? Because this, I think, applies to more people than it used to. At least I know Eric and I would definitely have to have these questions now with fires around us. Like when the smoke is dangerous for people who live nearby. Like we have air quality monitors and stuff. So I'll tell you, a month ago, my girlfriend's coming home from the airport. She calls me. She's like, get the fuck out of the house. The neighbor's house is on fire. And
really?
I look out, it's just flames licking my house, or actually like the neighbor's house. But then the smoke, we're the only 2-story place on the block. So all the smoke is coming right onto my roof.
Yeah.
And everything's covered with ash and stuff. And then I go and I talk to the local firefighters, and I say, hey, is there anything I need to worry about with toxicity and stuff with cleaning up this ash and stuff? And they said, no, it was a hoarder. It's just a bunch of, there's nothing hazardous. So I don't worry about that. Then we had, I don't know if you saw in the news, this industrial fire was just like, I was right in the wind path of that too, that burned for 9 days in LA, where it was solar panels, 9 inches of high density insulation, refrigerators, batteries, and 90 million pounds of meat. Now, the city told us there's nothing toxic in this.
That sounds like a burn pit that like Ryan or Adrian got exposed to.
I got the hell out of town because I was like, there's no way there's nothing toxic in this. And we didn't hear from the fire department. I would trust the fire department on it. But so anyway, what is there like a rule where like, oh, this is burning, get the hell out?
It always comes down to parts per million, right? The concentration of whatever the poison is, whether it's arsenic in your tea from your wife, or whether it's
girlfriend
particles in the air. The parts per million, right? If your neighbor's house is on fire and you're standing out in the front yard, unless the smoke is just enveloping you, the wind changed and you're standing there coughing and gagging, whatever, you're fine for the most part. You don't want to breathe it. It's not good for you, but you're not going to die immediately.
But wait a minute. But are you going to get cancer 10 years earlier?
You're going to get cancer in your 60s. Yeah. That's what the VA told me anyway.
I'm going to get cancer from so many things. But no, you don't want to breathe it, right? You don't want to breathe it. But is it going to kill you? Is it going to sneak into your house and suffocate you at night? No, it's not. Structure fires are a totally different beast than wildland fires. All the smoke that's blowing over Denver right now, it makes the sky look funny. It makes the sunsets beautiful. You can smell it. You can taste it. I had ash on the windshield of my truck when I woke up this morning.
My eyes are on fire right now. Yeah. I'm just like dying to put some eye drops in. It's
an irritant. It's dirty, but the parts per million, I mean, you're breathing so much clean air as opposed to the smoke particles. Wildland fire is a totally different deal. When I go out on a wildland fire, so I'm standing next to trees that are on fire, I'm standing next to fields that are on fire, I'm not wearing special breathing apparatus because, again, it's that concentration. It's not concentrated enough to do significant damage to me. I don't want to breathe it if I don't have to. Certainly the superheated gas, I don't want that because that'll singe my lungs and then I can't exchange oxygen and that'll kill you. But the smoke itself, although not good for you, is not going to make you keel over that day. Your house on fire, that's different. But and the burning meat and petrochemicals and whatever is in solar panels, whatever fucking magic they put in those things, I don't want to breathe that. And if my house was downstream of that, I'd probably take that time to go on vacation somewhere else. But
yeah, okay.
You've been doing this for 26 years. You've run enough medical calls. And if that was just a small sample of the things you've had to see, how do you deal with this on a day-to-day basis? How is having children affect this? And again, how do you not internalize all the things that you see, and how do you cope with these things?
Man, I wish there was like a strategy that I could say, well, I sit in a dark room and I put pennies in my mouth and I chant this phrase. And I really don't know. I have to attribute it to just the love of what I do. I get so much back from my job, and I don't want to sound like all gushy, like I just do it for the people. And, I do it for a paycheck too, for sure. And I do it for having 4 days off every week. I love being a firefighter. I get more out of helping people than it hurts not being able to help them. My son is a Little League baseball player. He's 11 years old. And his Little League team had a baseball game back in May. And 2 kids in the outfield were going for a fly ball, and they collided, and one went down and didn't get back up. And they started yelling, we need help, we need help. And my son looked to me sitting in the stands, and he knows I've had a lot of really crazy events off duty as well as on duty. But he's like, Dad, we need you. And so I get off the bleachers and I kind of walk out there like, oh, what's going on? Kid with a bloody nose, somebody got their teeth knocked out, seen that stuff before. The coach starts waving me over to the outfield, and I go jogging out there, and this kid has a compound fracture of his tibia and fibula. Ooh. The 2 lower bones of his leg are sticking out of his baseball pants.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
And as I showed up, I was quite shocked that was actually what was happening. And so I had somebody run and get my medical kit out of the truck. I started applying direct pressure because he was bleeding significantly. And then started to treat this little kid who's on my son's team, this little boy that I know by name and love this little kid. I mean, he was a trooper. He held it together. But I looked in the background, and what got me at the end was all of his team had all taken a knee and was sitting on the field watching. And all of the other team had taken a knee and they were watching. And all of the boys collectively were sobbing, crying. And I turned around like, hey, we got him. The ambulance showed up finally, and we put him on a backboard. I'd splinted him and controlled the bleeding and stuff, but they put him on a backboard and took him to the ambulance. And so I turned around like, success. He didn't die. He's now going to get definitive care. This is a high five moment, everybody. And all the boys are just a mess. And I saw that, and I'm like, you guys stop crying. He's going to be okay. You're going to make me cry. And so I got to jump in and play really first responder there. I wasn't on duty. I didn't have my fire department uniform or anything on. I didn't have my cape on, nothing. But I got to be part of that. And luckily the kid had he's still on crutches, but he's going to make a recovery. And the other parents were there saying, oh my God, I can't believe you could do that. The blood, the bones, the screaming, whatever. And in my head, I was like, if I hadn't been here, missing that opportunity to help somebody would hurt me more than what I actually saw there on scene. I don't like seeing him scream. I don't like the blood. The blood I think is gross too, but it's just, everybody has it. But if I had missed that chance to help this little boy, it would have hurt me more than what I actually saw. I didn't go home and have nightmares at night because I saw bones sticking out or blood, or I had this kid's blood on my shorts and had to ride home in my truck with blood on my shorts or whatever. But if I had not been there, the regret I would have felt for not being able to help that person. And it kind of spans a lot of the calls I see. I'm not glad I'm on all of them, but there's times like that somebody will tell me a call about what they were on. Oh man, you should have been here the other day with this huge fire. Oh, we saw this terrible car accident, or oh, we found this guy dead in a field, or whatever. There's part of me that's like, I wish I was there.
It's hard to find satisfaction if you're covered in poo after a call.
I don't know if I'm saving those people or not, but the ones you do save have, I think, kind of saved me.
We've talked about this on the show before, of just the levels of maturity of coping mechanisms, and altruism is always number one. And it sounds like you have that in spades. Did you have anything more that you kind of wanted to share?
When I started as a firefighter, my dad was super hesitant, and then he kind of got on board with what I was doing, and then he became my biggest fan. And he begged me to journal some of my stories. He's like, you got to write this down, because every morning I'd get off shift. I'd get in my truck to drive home. I'd call my dad and he'd say, tell me about it. What'd you see this time? Tell me a crazy story. And I'd tell him the stories and we'd be cracking up laughing and whatever. And he said, you got to write this down.
Dude, that's what started the show. The first 3 episodes are my stories. Like I couldn't let those go.
No. And I can't even remember, like off the cuff here, I can give you some stuff that happened in the last 5 years, or some of the big marquee events that have happened. I wrote a bunch of them down, and even going back in my own journal and seeing these things that I've gotten to experience, and these people that I've gotten to meet in my life, not like famous people, but people on their worst day or the worst event. Hopefully someday I can sit down with like grandkids, because my kids have heard all the stories, love the story. Tell me something else, Dad. My daughter has an app on her phone. She can track my department's calls, and she'll call me when I'm at work and she'll say, hey, you're at the 7-Eleven right now and you're fighting somebody. What do you got to call me? My daughter's 14 years old and she's like stalking me online to see what we're doing. Someday I hope to crack out this book of accumulation of stories and pass it on, because it's been a ride, man. And I couldn't be happier with what I ended up doing. I'm not cut out to be a doctor or a prosecutor. And even though I think I'm pretty funny, there's no way I could be a comedian. I'd be out of material in about 30 seconds.
How's your back holding up after 26 years?
Again, I'm a short guy. I'm not tall. So tall people get bad backs and bad knees. And right now I'm doing okay. I'm 5'9" and without achy knees. So
excellent. Good for you.
Keep it going. But who knows what tomorrow brings.
Well, thanks for doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah. Keep putting out those fires.
It's going to be a crazy summer. And could be some more stories at the end of it.
Well, thank you, Scott. Ryan, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can pre-order my new book, my memoir, 12 Guys Walk Into a Kitchen. It's funny stories about my family as one of 12 brothers from different parts of the world, different backgrounds, and stuff like that. So you can get that anywhere books are sold.
Well, nice to meet you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. Nice to meet you. Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app, or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.